Wang Lin once again returned to Suzaku planet. His power was terrifying, so much so that with just a single strike, he defeated an existence-surpassing ascendant. Countless cultivators were shaken to the core. Even YOUKU stood there in a daze, utterly stunned. This time, after leaving Suzaku planet, Wang Lin wandered for several hundred years. During that time, he experienced countless life and death dangers. From the moment he departed, when his cultivation was only at the soul transformation stage, he advanced step by step until he finally became a second-step cultivator, reaching the Nirvana Shatterer stage. On this journey, he slaughtered his way from Tian planet all the way to the Luo Tian star domain, and from there, returned to the Alliance star domain. The moment he set foot back in the Alliance, his heart burned with the urge to return to his homeland, Suzaku planet. Yet, at that very time, countless experts of the Luo Tian star domain surged into the Alliance star domain, sparking a great war. Wang Lin concealed his identity within their armies. No one knew he was actually from the Alliance, because in the Luo Tian star domain he went by another name Sumu, a name that made even the bravest Shatterer in fear. They called him the demonic Sumu, a butcher without mercy, whose name rumbled like thunder. Just as he prepared to return to Suzaku planet, the vanguard of the Luo Tian army struck several cultivation planets within the Alliance, including Suzaku planet itself. Suzaku planet was already half abandoned. To the Luo Tian cultivators, it could be destroyed with a mere wave of the hand. Even a cultivator at the spirit severing stage could wipe it clean. Over 100 Luo Tian cultivators descended, led by a large-headed youth whose cultivation had already reached the Nirvana Shatterer stage. With just a single strike, annihilating Suzaku planet was no difficulty. He ordered his subordinates to exterminate all cultivators on the planet within the time of a single incense stick. The two laughed arrogantly, declaring they could flatten the planet in less than half that time. Murderous aura rolling off them, they transformed into two streaks of starlight, piercing the planet's protective wind layer and descending upon Suzaku planet. Atop Mount Suzaku, Chiwutai and many cultivators stood in grim formation, swearing to defend their homeland to the death. Chiwutai shouted that ever since Wang Lin had passed the mantle of Suzaku Sun to him, he had resolved to live and die with this planet, never retreating even if it meant his life ended today. Behind him, two ascendant stage old monsters exchanged glances, determination in their eyes. They understood this was no longer a small dispute, it was a war between two star domains. Escape was meaningless, only a desperate battle remained. At the same time, in another part of Suzaku planet, YOUKU, after centuries of seclusion, emerged into the skies. His face was older, and between his brows faintly glowed mysterious runes. Behind him stood many members of the Celestial Clan. Their faces were grave. Across Suzaku planet, regardless of sect or commoner, all felt an unprecedented crisis looming overhead. They all raised their heads toward the heavens. A pressure of annihilation blanketed the world, like a great mountain crashing down, resistance meaning only shattered bones and destruction. At that moment, the two Luo Tian brothers, both at ascendant great perfection, rushed in arrogantly. Their divine senses swept the entire planet like a storm, mocking Suzaku planet as impoverished and backward, unworthy of attention. Chiwutai, YOUKU, and several other ascendant experts rushed to intercept them. But the instant their divine sense swept past the region of the Yantia sect, one of them trembled violently as though struck by lightning. His body shook uncontrollably, eyes wide with horror, as if beholding something unspeakably dreadful. The other quickly extended his divine sense and locked onto the statue before Yantia sect's mountain gate. That statue was exquisitely carved, its cold eyes seeming alive. It was the likeness of Wang Lin. The two Luo Tian cultivators trembled violently, fear erupting 100-fold. Screaming in terror, they shouted the dreaded name Sumu, the demonic child. Their scalps went numb, and when they looked at each other, their eyes reflected only pure fear. For in the Luo Tian star domain, Sumu's name was Thunderous. In the campaign of sealing immortals, he had become a true lightning immortal, commanding 3,000 cultivators, his prestige unmatched. Not just them, even their ancestral forebears had shown Sumu respect. Even that large-headed celestial envoy dared not take him lightly. Thus, the two no longer had a shred of arrogance. Without the courage for even a single exchange, they turned and fled in terror. They knew clearly opposing Sumu meant only death. As for why his statue was erected here, why it was worshipped, they dared not think further. They only knew they had to flee as far as possible, lest death catch them a step too late. Their sudden retreat stunned all of Suzaku planet's cultivators who had been ready to die in battle. Chiwutai was dumbfounded, the Celestial Clan members were horrified. But YOUKU's sharp eyes focused on Yantia sect. He clearly saw that the instant the intruder's divine sense swept there, they had fled. Doubt surged in his heart what could possibly terrify to ascendant great perfection cultivators to this degree. He spread out his divine sense, soon halting upon Wang Lin's statue. A faint guess arose in his heart, but he could scarcely believe it. Chuwutai and the other old monsters also reacted, sending their divine senses toward Yantasect. Tai Yan stared at the statue, his eyes flashing with excitement, murmuring that it was surely Wang Lin's protection. Meanwhile, the two fleeing Luo Tian cultivators hurried back into the starry void, standing before the large-headed youth. He opened his eyes, frowning coldly as he demanded an explanation. Trembling, they said they had seen a statue upon the planet. But he cut them off with irritation, dismissing it as an excuse. His face still carried a silly grin, but killing intent flickered in his eyes. One of them begged that the celestial envoy go in person to see. The youth's gaze grew cold as he strode towards Suzaku Planet. A half-abandoned planet was normally beneath his notice, left for subordinates to handle. But this time, he wished to see what could frighten two great perfection cultivators. As he advanced, his divine sense swept forth. Having reached early Nirvana Shatterer, his might far surpassed ordinary cultivators. His divine sense crashed over Suzaku Planet like a storm, mountains crumbled, rivers boiled, and suffocating pressure blanketed the land like the collapse of heaven itself. Weaker cultivators spat blood and fell, their golden cores shattering. Those at Foundation Establishment or condensation fainted instantly. Even mortals lost consciousness, the entire planet falling into deadly silence. Only a few resisted. Chuwutai burned his Azure Dragon bloodline, manifesting 100 Jiang Dragon to resist the pressure. YOUKU's runes flickered, his body even showing faint signs of a breakthrough, but a cold snort instantly shattered them, making him cough blood. The large-headed youth slowly descended, cold and indifferent, regarding all beings like ants. With a flick of his finger, Immortal condensed into golden light, shattering Chuwutai's Azure Dragon Phantom and leaving him gravely injured. Yet at that very moment, his figure froze, his divine sense swept to the Yantasect's gate, where he saw the statue. The instant he laid eyes on it, he drew in a sharp breath. His expression changed drastically, and he involuntarily staggered back several steps. His heartbeat pounded wildly, his eyes filled with uncontrollable turmoil. He never imagined that here, of all places, there would be a statue of Sumu, the nightmare of his past. In that battle years ago, he had been utterly powerless to resist. Even now, recalling it still made his body tremble. In the blink of an eye, his figure appeared outside Yantasect, eyes locked upon the statue. The longer he stared, the more fear crept into him until he finally confirmed that this was indeed Sumu. At once, he understood why two of his subordinates had fled, and even he himself now felt the urge to retreat. Zhangsheng YOUKU scanned with his divine sense, his heart trembling. He could not understand why these cultivators of Luotian were so terrified of Wang Lin's statue. A ridiculous suspicion even arose in his mind. Could it be that they truly feared Wang Lin? Dao Tongzi big-headed child glared at the statue. When his gaze met those cold eyes, goosebumps spread across his body as though he was staring at a living man. He stepped back, face dark, to risk offending Sumu for the sake of one worthless planet was not worth it. Yet this statue had stood for hundreds of years, a sign that Sumu likely belonged to the Alliance Star domain. That, perhaps, was a secret sufficient to destroy him. Thinking of this, he suddenly laughed aloud, striding up before the statue. Lifting his hand, he was about to smash it apart to vent his fury. At that very moment, Tai Yan barked coldly, "If you dare destroy the statue of our benefactor, you will die without a corpse left behind. Even if Sumu himself appeared, I would not fear him." But as he moved to strike, an icy voice suddenly echoed throughout all of Suzaku Planet. "Say that again." In terror, he retreated at once, even spitting blood to cast his clan's secret art Blood Escape Sudan. Fleeing madly, the fear of Sumu had been carved into his very bones. Tai Yan was moved to tears, bowing toward the figure emerging beside the statue. His voice trembled. "Benefactor!" YOUKU gasped sharply and cried out, "Wang Lin!" Chuwutai, both shocked and elated, also shouted his name. At this moment, every cultivator present trembled. The true ancestor of Suzaku Planet had returned. Killing intent flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. He took a step forward, voice cold. "You cannot escape." In the blink of an eye, he reappeared before the fleeing Dato Tongzi. Without hesitation, his icy palm pressed forward. A thunderous explosion rang out. The bloodlight shrouding Dato Tongzi shattered instantly, his complexion pale. In all his years of cultivation, he had never witnessed such a bizarre divine ability. Horror gripped him as he felt his flesh withering, life force draining away. Then, like a meteor struck from the heavens, he was blasted back and crashed heavily into the ground. All across Suzaku planet, cultivators roused from slumber, scanning with divine sense, were shaken by what they saw. Dato Tongzi's body writhed in agony. He plummeted hundreds of jang before barely stabilizing. With a roar, his hands formed seals, pointing forward. Endless immortal force erupted from his body, forming a colossal heavenly net Wang that flooded the sky, sweeping toward Wang Lin, but Wang Lin's eyes were cold. Facing the crashing immortal net, he did not dodge. Ripples spread beneath his feet and in an instant his figure vanished. Dato Tongzi's soul nearly dispersed. His clan's blood escape was their fastest divine ability, trading cultivation for speed, faster even than teleportation. It had saved his life countless times before, but today, Wang Lin had effortlessly surpassed it. Cold sweat poured down his back as terror filled his heart toward that ghost-like movement technique. He shouted frantically that he had never killed anyone, begging Wang Lin to stop. Seeing Wang Lin pause, he rejoiced, hurriedly soaring skyward while stammering. It was all a misunderstanding. I'll leave at once. By then, experts such as Zhu Shenzi Blood God Child would surely hunt down this traitor. Calculating that Wang Lin would not dare act before so many cultivators, he fled toward the outer edge of Suzaku. But Wang Lin had already seen through his thoughts. A cold smile curved his lips as his right hand lifted. Exchange positions. In an instant, Dato Tongzi's fleeing body flashed with eerie light. Before he could react, heaven and earth spun, and he found himself back at his original place. Wang Lin strode toward him, killing intent even heavier. Despair flooded Dato Tongzi's heart. Just as Wang Lin prepared to strike again, his expression flickered. From above, countless sword lights descended. Outside Suzaku, several hundred Wuxia cultivators had sensed the anomaly and forced their way through the storm layer. Their oppressive momentum was like a mountain, startling all Suzaku cultivators. Yet when they recognized Wang Lin, their faces changed drastically. Without hesitation, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding, summoning the Tianhu banner, the sacred token proving his identity as an orthodox disciple of the Thunder Immortals. Calmly, he said, "This immortal is debating Dao with another. Stand guard outside. Any who disobey, kill them." Several quick-witted Wuxia cultivators immediately retreated, inwardly regretting their curiosity. With the first to flee, others followed, withdrawing from Suzaku planet without daring to interfere. This scene made the cultivators of Suzaku realize just how exalted Wang Lin's position was in the eyes of the Wuxia cultivators. Dato Tongzi, covered in blood, quivered with terror. Wang Lin lifted his right hand. Black clouds and thunder gathered, countless bolts merging into a single thunderball in his palm. Dato Tongzi trembled violently, pleading, 2,000 years of cultivation. It was not easy. I'll accept any condition, just spare my life. He realized Wang Lin had not yet struck a killing blow, clearly intending something else. Wang Lin's voice was calm. I require a servant. Willingly, you will be unharmed. Resist, and you will die instantly. From that moment, Dato Tongzi became Wang Lin's servant. Standing alone upon his homeland, countless emotions welled in Wang Lin's heart. He sighed at how the southern victory starfield had changed people gone, only remnants left. When Shuitai and YOUKU rushed over, Wang Lin merely left behind a strand of divine sense before departing silently. Though that divine sense was gentle, it still pressed upon them with unfathomable weight. Shuitai quickly composed himself. As the current Suzaku, he understood that Wang Lin's cultivation had reached unimaginable heights. With no choice, he led his people away quietly. But YOUKU fell into deep contemplation, recalling his past encounters with Wang Lin. Old grudges now seemed trivial, not even worth mentioning.